we have in person Yuri Go and Jong-mi Kim from Korea, and their paper is entitled From Masculine to Feminine Naming Evolution, a Comparative Phonological Analysis of 18 Regions Across 4 Continents.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uri Go. I'm so pleased to present this research today. Our study has been conducted with my co-author, Professor Jong-mi Kim, and with the title From Masculine to Feminine Naming Evolution, a Comparative Phonological Analysis of 18 Regions Across 4 Continents from 1880 to 2023. We will examine how gendered phonological patterns in names have evolved over the past 140 years. Specifically, we analyzed the decline of final plosives in male names and the persistence of final vowels in female names. The presentation is structured mainly into 4 sections: introduction, methods, results, and discussion. After presenting the conclusion, we'll have time for Q&A session. Let's start with a quick activity. Please take a look at these 2 portraits. And there are 2 names, Vincent and Milo, and the 2 eras, 1880s and 2020s in the middle. Could you match each name and era to the correct image? It wasn't too difficult, was it? Instinctively, most people associate the name Vincent and the era 1880s with the image on the left, and the name Milo and the era 2020s with the image on the right. It's likely because the left image has more traditional sense of masculinity, while the right image has a softer appearance. Victoria. Let's try the same activity with the female names Victoria and Sophia. Which name and era do you think best match each image? This task might have been a little more challenging. Based on the clothing, we can assume the woman in Victorian dress is from 1880s with the name Victoria, and the modern woman is from 2020s with the name Sophia. However, both Victoria and Sophia could work for either woman. Here is a direct comparison from 1880s to today. In the past, male names and images reflect strong masculinity, while female names and images do strong femininity. But over time, male images have softened with their names, whereas female names have remained largely the same. How has this change happened? In the 1880s, male names like Vincent ended in plosives bıdıgı pıtıkı, but today many male names end with vowels a, e, i, o, u like Milo. On the other hand, for female names, final vowels in names were popular in 1880s like Victoria, and this has continued today like Sophia. This observation led us to ask 2 key research questions. Number 1, how do final plosive consonants and vowel endings in gendered names vary across cultures and regions? And number 2, how have these features evolved over time to reflect societal changes in gender norms? Previous research suggests that male names contain more consonants, while female names favor vowel endings. Some researchers argue that for current trends, gendered phonology is shifting, with traditional markers weakening and gender-neutral naming trends are emerging. These studies provide a foundation for our research. Now, Let's go over the methods we used in this study. For this study, we collected the top 20 most popular names per decade from 1880 to 2023. Our data set includes names from 6 countries: Korea, Bangladesh, the USA, Britain, Canada, and Australia, covering 18 regions across national, hyperurban area, and traditional areas. The name data were sourced from official government records. At this point, you might be wondering why we chose these 6 countries and how we define hyperurban and traditional areas. We selected these 6 countries based on their diverse economic, cultural, linguistic, and script backgrounds, as well as the availability of official government data. Additionally, we analyzed regional variations within a single country to extend the study's implications beyond national trends. Hyperurban and traditional areas were selected based on cultural and economic contrasts while maintaining access to official data. In this study, we focused on 2 main phonological patterns: final plosives in male names and final vowels in female names. To standardize our comparisons, we applied romanization rules for non-English names according to official standards. For statistical analysis, we used independent t-tests to measure gender differences and Kendall's-Taube correlation to track historical trends. This slide shows how final plosives and final vowels appear in both male and female names from our name data. For example, male names from USA and Canada have not only final plosives like Jack and Maverick, but also final vowels like Levi and Leo. Similarly, female names from Britain and Australia have final plosives like Violet and Margaret, as well as final vowels like Olivia and Ella. Then now, let's see if this pattern holds in non-English names as well. Non-English names in our study, specifically from Korean and Bengali, also show the same phonological patterns. For example, male names from Korea contain final plosives like Yongsik and final vowels in Jiho as well, while female names from Bangladesh include final plosives like Musrat and final vowels like Fatima. In our name dataset, we found that both final plosives and final vowels appeared in both male and female names. Given this, we aimed to determine whether generalizable phonological gender patterns exist across languages and cultures. Furthermore, we aim to examine how it has historically evolved over time if such patterns do exist. And now, with these reliable datasets, focusing on final plosives and final vowels in personal names, I'd like to share the key findings of our study. First, to see the gender differences in using final vowels in names, we conducted an independent t-test. Across all 6 countries, female names overwhelmingly contained more final vowels than male names with strong statistical significance. This confirms that vowel endings are a phonological marker of femininity across different languages and cultures. However, we found male names contained more final plosives than female names with strong statistical significance in almost countries except for Korea. Also, to analyze how phonological naming trends have changed over time, we conducted a Kendall's-Taube correlation test. This chart illustrates the historical decline of final plosives in male names across 6 countries, divided into 3 regional categories. From the left side, nationwide, hyperurban, and traditional areas. The thick red line on each graph represents the overall trend for the 6 countries, showing a strong negative correlation. It means final plosives in male names have significantly decreased over time across all regions. However, this chart shows the historical trend of final vowels in female names across the same 6 countries and same regional categories. Again, the thick red line on each graph represents the overall trend for the same 6 countries, and final vowels in female names have increased over time with strong positive correlations across all regions. So, from these 2 charts, we can make 2 key observations. First, final plosives in male names have declined, while final vowels in female names have increased over time. Secondly, the decline of final plosives in male names was rapid, whereas the increase of final vowels in female names was more gradual. This aligns with our earlier findings. Male names have undergone significant phonological changes over time, like from Vincent ending with final plosives to Milo ending with final vowel. While female names have remained relatively stable, like from Victoria ending with final vowel and to Sophia ending with vowel. Now, let's move on to the discussion section, where we interpret our findings and explore their broader implications. Our first research question asked whether there are gender-specific phonological markers across cultures. The answer is yes. Final plosives are more strongly associated with male names, whereas final vowels dominate in female names. This pattern was consistent across different languages and cultures. Our second research question asked whether phonological trends reflect societal changes. Again, the answer is yes. Over time, final plosives in male names have declined, while final vowels in female names have increased. This shift suggests a trend toward phonological feminization in male names, while female names have remained largely consistent. Furthermore, to extend our findings, we examined regional variations categorized by national, hyperurban, and traditional area. Our analysis showed no significant phonological differences between hyperurban and traditional regions, as illustrated in Figure 2 and 3. This suggests that phonological gender markers have remained relatively stable across contemporary cultures, but they have undergone significant changes over time. We have found key insights from our research, but still there are areas for future studies. First, our research mainly focused on Indo-European and Korean, which is Altai language. Future studies should expand to Afro-Asiatic and Dravidian languages to see if these naming patterns hold universally. Second, future research should explore social political forces in shaping naming trends, such as media, politics, globalization, migration, and historical events. By addressing these areas, we can gain a deeper understanding of how language and culture interact in shaping names. Let me summarize the 3 key findings from this study. First, across cultures, gendered phonology remains consistent. male names predominantly feature final plosives, while female names favor final vowels. Second, historical trends show a shift. Final plosives in male names have decreased, while final vowels in female names have increased, indicating phonological feminization over time. Third, we found no significant differences, which suggests that these trends are influenced more by historical change than by contemporary cultural differences. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge my colleagues who contributed to this research. Special thanks to Professor Jong-mi Kim, our corresponding author, as well as Charmin Sumaya, Seona Kim, Sumin Kim, and Hee-jin Shin. Their expertise in various linguistic and cultural contexts greatly enriched our study. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for time and attention. I appreciate the opportunity to share our research today. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very interesting presentation. And we also have a comment from David Wade saying that it was an interesting statistical approach as well. Um, so I just have a question straight off while we're waiting for other people to raise their hands or comments. So you show that this is a trend happening over time, and it's pretty consistent across it, which is amazing. Like I would never have expected to see that. Where will it end? What is going to be the result in 10 years or 20 years? Do you think it will level out at some point?
Thanks for thanks for your comment and the question. Yeah, it's my expectation from our findings, and I think based on our charts in figure 2 and figure 3. So through these charts and graphs, we expect uh, that this trend will keep going. So
Mhm.
the final plosives in male names will be decreased, and the final vowels in female names will be increased, and the feminization in male names will be increased in the future, I guess.
Mhm.
So, so I would like to mention that to answer your question, it may level out later on.
Oh, so interesting. Um, I have seen some other research that will be published in Names shortly that deals with the same trend that you have noticed. So other people are noticing this as well. And um, maybe you can speculate a little about what are the cultural changes that are causing this to happen? Why is it okay for male names to be more feminized, but not okay for female names to be masculinized?
Dr. Ko, could you open the slide 39?
Uh, okay. While cultures differ, our phonological trends in gender names show cross-linguistic consistency,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I think these days people prefer the softer uh, male image. So, and they want male to be more sophisticated and more detailed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why males' names can be feminization, but it's a little bit more hard or difficult from feminization to masculinity in female names.
Mm,
To
interesting.
add the answer, Dr. Ko, could you open the slide 36? There are language particular concern, and definitely some languages have vowel harmony,
Mm-hmm.
but feminization in Indo-European languages, the vowel, the final vowels are very strong. But in Korea, in particular, there's a vowel harmony that masculine names have the name ending u, which is what we traditionally called dark vowel. And then, like other Indo-European languages and other language families, e, seem to be quite common. So we should look at vowel harmony, and that will probably be another consideration that we didn't actually deal with in this paper.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your question. That's very important question.
I will read a comment in the chat. Also, two comments. Alexa says, great presentation with great delivery. It honestly seemed like a pre-recorded talk because your delivery is so well-paced and natural. And I agree with that. And then Helen Zaltzman says, I think what happens is that there is some male-coded names like James, Evan, Hillary, Allison that become more common for girls, but it never goes the other way. There's no male names that are Jennifers. And yeah, I think we have seen that. If there's no other questions, I have one more thing that I wanted to ask about. When you were doing this, did you find names that were perceived as gender neutral that could not be sorted into one group or another? And did they have any common features?
Especially in Korean names, it appears very significantly. So in the past, the male names have strong masculinity, like 철수 or 영식, like that, and the female names has a strong femininity, like 미자 or 수키, like that. So whenever people hear that names, they could define what gender he is or she is. But these days, people prefer to have the gender neutral names in Korea. So these days, people hear their names, they couldn't define, is he or is she, like that. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes,
Very
I would
interesting.
like to add the answer. And as Dr. Ko mentioned, gender neutral names are increasing. And especially female name to traditionally male name. So the trend seems to be quite interesting. It's a little more, well, it happens to in Korea too, just like in English names. Male names goes to female, but never to the other direction.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's great. Cleve, yes, please.
Yes, I find this very interesting, but I also see in English-speaking countries, in it, one of the biggest increases in sound is at the end of names is N, which is neither a plosive nor a vowel. I mean, my three great nephews are Caden, Preston, and Emerson, and of course you have all the Aiden, Jaden, Caden, Owen. Uh, and so I would like to see statistics done on. Well, I'm not a linguist. I don't know what the term for what kind of a sound N is, but those sounds too at the end and how they're different between male and female and how they've changed. So.
Thank you for asking. For this research, we just focused on final plosives and final vowels in many countries, but for the previous research, my Professor Jong-mi Kim and I did, we did the research from with the Korean names, and at that time we analyzed with the final N sound, and from that findings we could find, as you said, the final N was increasing. So I guess if we didn't do the research yet, but if we did, my guess is maybe the N sound in the final and could be increasing. Yeah.
Very interesting. A couple more comments in the chat. Alexa says, I wonder if there is any change in countries where gender neutral names are illegal, like in Poland. Interesting. I did not know that. And then Helen chimes in, some changes in Iceland. There used to be strict gender restrictions on first names, but those were lifted in 2019. So yeah, it would be very interesting to see what it's like where there are actual laws about names.
Yeah.
While people can think a little more about questions, you can interfere us a lot, well, anytime. We have most insecure spot. And Dr. Ko, could you open the slide, page 42? And could you, page 42? And could you explain why we chose this area? This is something that you may be suspicious about and we feel insecure, but we had no other choice. Okay, Dr. Ko, could you explain what are the reasons that we chose to contrast hyper-urban area and traditional area?
Yes. As I explained in the method section, there was reason why we selected the 6 countries with those regions as a hyper-urban and traditional area. We should make sure to get some official governmental records with well-organized data for reliableness, and also we have to have sufficient data for analysis to uncover key findings with long period. And also the regions have the large enough population, and also they should be competitive based on like economic or cultural contrast. So that's why we could as many countries as we could get some data from other countries, and also we chose those areas in a country. And we got the data from each country and each region as much earlier as and as much latest as. So we got the full data from the government for this study.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really interesting. Beth also says, interesting for future research would be the role religious naming rules might demonstrate in this trend, because that would certainly affect the names. Okay. Okay, we have time for maybe one more question or comment if anyone has it. This is fascinating. I hope that you will be continuing your research in this area because it's great to look at so much data. You've done an amazing job with huge quantities of names to come up with your results.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we will go on now. Thank you so much for that.